I feel that what I am today, where I've gone today, had been based mostly on instinct, animal instinct.
I don't know if I can find guys with the same faces.
I post a new video every day exploring the lives and stories of Hollywood's golden age stars. If this topic interests you, consider subscribing, liking, or commenting. It truly helps more than you know. Thank you for watching. And now, let's move into the story. Squinted eyes, quiet threats, those were his weapons. The man who growled, "Go ahead, make my day," didn't just play tough on screen, he lived it. For more than 60 years, Clint Eastwood hasn't just ruled Hollywood, he's owned it. Behind that cool, calm whisper lies a man who never tolerated nonsense, either in front of the camera or behind it. People see red carpets and flashing lights and think it's all glitz and champagne. But for Eastwood, filmmaking is war. Every second counts. To him, a real pro shows up ready, knows the lines, and nails the shot in one go. Yet whispers from Hollywood insiders reveal something wild, a secret blacklist that Eastwood kept locked away for years. And this wasn't about bruised egos or petty drama. It was about crossing the one line Clint never forgives, wasting his time. He's known for running sets so quiet you could hear a pin drop, but behind that calm, he held serious grudges. There were 5 stars in particular who tested his patience so bad, they ended up on his personal no-go list. Their behind-the-scenes clashes with Clint are the kind that change how you'll ever see them again. This isn't just another celebrity story. It's a glimpse into old-school Hollywood grit. Eastwood's world runs on respect, punctuality, and no excuses. In a time when that kind of discipline is fading fast, his standards hit even harder. So if you still believe in hard work, no drama, and zero time wasting, keep reading, because what comes next will make your jaw drop. We're about to break down the 5 stars who made the ultimate mistake, crossing Clint Eastwood's invisible line. In his world, being fast, sharp, and locked in isn't optional. It's law. And the first name on this list might shock even the biggest fans of classic cinema, a legend whose wild side clashed head-on with Eastwood's no-nonsense discipline. At number 5 sits a man whose name echoes through the halls of theater history, Richard Burton. To the casual movie lover, pairing Burton with Eastwood in the 1968 war epic, where Eagles Dare looked like pure genius, Burton was the powerhouse Shakespearean actor with a voice that could shake the room, while Eastwood was Hollywood's rising symbol of icy toughness. It seemed like a dream team on paper, but behind the camera, it was chaos. Instead of mutual respect, what unfolded was a battle of 2 worlds that just couldn't connect. The film went on to become a box office hit, a war classic loved for generations. But Eastwood walked away with one clear conclusion. He never wanted to share a set with Richard Burton again. That bad taste didn't come from ego. It came from principle. The root of their clash was simple. Eastwood lived by discipline, Burton by impulse. Clint showed up before sunrise, lines perfect, ready to shoot like clockwork. He treated every film set like a tight military unit. Everybody had a role, every second mattered. But working alongside Burton, who often drifted from that order, pushed Clint's patience to its limit. To him, that wasn't just bad behavior. It was a betrayal of what filmmaking should be. Richard Burton wasn't just battling lines and lighting. He was battling his own storm. Right in the middle of his fiery, headline-grabbing relationship with Elizabeth Taylor, Burton brought that same chaos straight onto the set. Those who worked alongside him remember it all too well. He'd roll in late, eyes heavy, sometimes clearly recovering from a long night out, and other times still caught up in it. For a man like Clint Eastwood, who thrived on order and precision, that was pure torture. Picture it. Eastwood standing there, calm but sharp-eyed, every move measured, while Burton stumbled through lines he barely seemed to know. That legendary cool exterior of Clint's hit a storm brewing underneath. The breaking point came during one of the movie's most important scenes, a long, intense monologue where Burton had to reveal the mission's true purpose. It should have been the moment that showed his brilliance. Instead, it turned into a slow-motion disaster. Witnesses from the set recall Burton needing over 20 takes just to get it right. For Eastwood, whose one-and-done shooting style was famous across Hollywood, that was unthinkable. But instead of blowing up or walking off, Clint went cold. He stepped aside, folded his arms, and just watched. That silence hit harder than any outburst. It was the kind of quiet that made the whole crew freeze. When a crew member finally asked if he was mad, Clint supposedly smirked and said, "I'm getting paid by the picture, not by the hour." Everyone knew what that meant. He was furious. To him, the issue wasn't just wasted time, it was wasted respect. For Eastwood, showing up ready and doing your job right wasn't just a rule, it was a code. And Burton's chaos had crossed that line big time. What truly locked Richard Burton onto Clint Eastwood's personal blacklist wasn't just the hangovers or the missed call times, it was his attitude. Burton's problem went deeper than the bottle. It was his pride. Trained in the grand tradition of Shakespearean theater, he carried himself like he was above it all. Crew members remember overhearing him make smug little jabs about Where Eagles Dare, calling it just a paycheck movie. He said that within earshot of people breaking their backs to make it work. That kind of arrogance hit Clint like a slap in the face. For Eastwood, who treats every project, no matter the genre, with full respect, those words were unforgivable. It wasn't just disrespect toward him, but to the entire art of filmmaking. The camera crew, the grips, the people who woke up before dawn to make movie magic happen. And to Clint, it also disrespected the fans who paid their hard-earned money to see the film. That wasn't just unprofessional. It was insulting to the very spirit of the craft. Years later, when Eastwood was asked about working with Burton, he didn't rant or hold a grudge publicly. He just summed it up with a quiet sting. Talented guy. Wasted talent. 3 simple words that cut deeper than any long speech. It was Clint's way of saying Burton had every gift in the world, but threw it away by forgetting the value of discipline. As we move down Eastwood's secret blacklist, a pattern starts to appear. Burton's downfall came from the chaos of alcohol, but the next star brought a whole different kind of storm, raw emotion and wild unpredictability. In Clint's tightly controlled world, that kind of energy could blow up a set faster than any bad script. Landing in the number 4 spot is a tragic name, Jean Seberg, the gifted actress whose short life was marked by heartbreak and struggle. Their paths crossed in 1969 on the risky set of Paint Your Wagon, a strange twist for Clint, who was stepping way outside his comfort zone. The man known for quiet stares and gunfights suddenly had to sing on screen. It was a gamble that tested his patience, and Jean's emotional turmoil would push it to the breaking point. For a man like Clint Eastwood, who thrives on control, focus, and total preparedness, Paint Your Wagon was already pushing the limits. He was stepping into a musical far outside his comfort zone, and what he needed most was a co-star he could count on. Steady, disciplined, locked in, but instead he found himself paired with Jean Seberg, a brilliant actress whose life was falling apart right before everyone's eyes. Seberg, forever remembered for her unforgettable performance in Breathless and her tragic persecution by the FBI over her political ties, carried heavy emotional baggage onto the set. Those who were there described the atmosphere as tense and chaotic, the exact opposite of how Clint liked to work. While he showed up every morning ready to grind, Seberg's personal pain often spilled over into her professional world, and the result was constant disruption. Clint treated even the singing and dancing scenes with the same iron discipline he brought to his gunslinging roles. To him, the job was simple. Show up, stay sharp, and do it right the first time. But Jean seemed trapped in her own emotional storm. Crew members recalled days when filming would stop completely because she was locked in her trailer, too upset to perform. For Eastwood, whose filmmaking code was built on rhythm, order, and accountability, that kind of unpredictability was pure chaos. One of the film's choreographers later described it perfectly. Clint was always on his mark, ready to go, while Jean was either missing or in tears. To someone like Eastwood, that wasn't just inconvenient. It was a total breach of professionalism. He saw the set as sacred space, where discipline ruled above all. Watching it crumble under emotional turmoil hit him hard, and it cemented another painful name on his secret blacklist. The breaking point came when Clint Eastwood and Jean Seberg had to film their romantic scenes, moments meant to feel tender and focused, but instead they became a test of pure patience. What should have been smooth, emotional takes turned into long, draining marathons. Gene's mood swings made even the simplest exchanges feel impossible, clashing hard with Eastwood's strict, no-wasted motion style. For a man who lived by efficiency, every extra take felt like nails on a chalkboard. But what really got under Clint's skin wasn't the delays. It was Seberg's constant second-guessing. Right in the middle of a scene, she'd stop cold to question her lines or debate her character's motivation, killing the momentum. One script supervisor remembered a particular day where the scene was just supposed to be a simple walk and talk. Clint had his lines locked in, cool and ready. But Gene kept halting everything, asking, "Why would my character say that?" Again and again. After the fifth interruption, Eastwood, known for being calm even under pressure, simply walked off set without a word. 10 minutes later, he came back, looked her straight in the eye, and said quietly but firmly, "Let's just get this done." That was as close to an outburst as anyone ever saw from him. The message was crystal clear. Stop overthinking, do your job, and keep it moving. But what truly locked Seberg onto Eastwood's blacklist wasn't what happened during filming. It was what came after. When Paint Your Wagon hit theaters and didn't perform as expected, Gene gave interviews that cut deep. She hinted that Clint's wooden acting and limited singing ability had hurt the film's success. For someone as private and loyal as Eastwood, that was unforgivable. In his world, loyalty doesn't end when the cameras stop rolling. It's supposed to last long after the final cut. Publicly criticizing a co-star, especially one who kept his cool through a difficult shoot, crossed a line he couldn't ignore. Though Clint never spoke badly about Seberg, not even after her heartbreaking passing in 1979, those close to him noticed his reaction. Anytime her name or Paint Your Wagon came up, he'd quietly change the subject and move on. To Clint, that silence said it all. He'd learned one harsh truth, no matter how gifted someone might be. Talent means nothing without discipline, loyalty, and respect for the work. And in his book, Jean Seberg had broken all three. "It's not their fault," he reportedly told a friend, "but it's not something I need to deal with twice." That line says it all. Calm voice, firm boundary, no second chances. Here's one for you. Should actors or any pro leave their emotions at the door when they clock in, or is emotional chaos just the price of artistic genius? If you've been grinding for years, drop your take. Real-world experience hits different. Jean Seberg's fragility put Eastwood through it, but at least her battles stayed inside. No shouting matches, no scenes on the floor of the set. The next name, though, brought a whole new problem. Pure heat and confrontation. If Seberg was a storm of tears, the number 3 spot was a full-on hurricane of aggression. Someone bold enough to test Eastwood's alpha energy right on his own turf. This clash wasn't random. It was two strong-willed talents locking horns, no backing down. Enter Tommy Lee Jones, Eastwood's co-star in the 1993 thriller In the Line of Fire. On paper, it was perfect casting. Two no-frills heavyweights, both intense, both minimal, both able to control a scene with a single stare. How could that not spark fireworks? The audience got the show, no doubt, but the real blasts were happening off camera where the air was even hotter. The movie crushed it with critics and at the box office, but the vibe on set told a different story. Word is, Clint walked away deciding there wouldn't be a round 2. From day one, insiders say it turned into a quiet power struggle. No yelling, just a steady push for control, for move. Clint Eastwood has always believed in quiet power, the kind that comes from listening, reacting, and letting the scene breathe. To him, the best acting happens in the space between the lines, not in trying to dominate them. But Tommy Lee Jones, he came in swinging with that ferocious, all-eyes-on-me energy that Hollywood calls scene stealing, and he owned it like a badge of honor. From the start, Jones brought a fire that burned too hot for Eastwood's cool precision. Director Wolfgang Peterson even admitted that the tension was impossible to miss. He said that while Tommy had incredible presence, his relentless push to win every scene clashed hard with Clint's calm, minimalist style. It was a true showdown, an unstoppable force running headfirst into an unshakable wall. But for Eastwood, a movie set isn't supposed to feel like a battlefield. It's a place for rhythm, teamwork, and mutual respect. Yet as the shoot went on, things got personal. Jones leaned deep into his method acting, so deep that he never let go of his character's rage. Playing a dangerous assassin obsessed with taking out the president, Jones carried that same aggression right off the camera. Crew members said he'd keep that cold, menacing stare locked on Clint even after the director yelled, "Cut!" Imagine it. Everyone grabbing snacks at the craft table while Jones is still glaring. It's part of the script. To Eastwood, who's famous for flipping his character off like a switch the second a scene ends, this constant fake hostility was exhausting. He didn't see it as dedication. He saw it as disruption. One sound tech remembered it vividly. After an especially heated take, Jones kept staring Eastwood down, silent but intense. Clint just looked back, cool as ever, then turned and walked off. A few minutes later, he muttered to his assistant, "Life's too short for that kind of nonsense." That quiet remark became legend among his crew. Classic Clint, calm but cutting. But what officially locked Tommy Lee Jones on Eastwood's personal blacklist wasn't just the on-set tension. It was his refusal to respect the chain of command. In Clint's world, the director calls the shots, not the actors. And when someone challenges that balance, especially in front of the crew, that's a sin he doesn't forgive. There were moments on set when Tommy Lee Jones and Clint Eastwood simply couldn't see eye to eye. They'd clash over how a scene should play out, with Clint keeping his cool, ready to follow the director's lead just to keep the day moving. But Jones, he'd stand his ground, dig in, and fight for his own vision. For a man like Eastwood, who built his entire career on the one-and-done philosophy, that kind of stubbornness wasn't art, it was aggravation. This wasn't just a creative disagreement, it was a battle of egos. Eastwood didn't see Jones's behavior as commitment. He saw it as chaos disguised as passion. To him, it showed a lack of trust in the process, in the director, and in the team that kept the production running like clockwork. That defiance crossed a line, and Clint doesn't forget lines once they're crossed. After In the Line of Fire wrapped, Hollywood buzzed with talk of a possible reunion between these two powerhouse actors. The chemistry on screen was undeniable, but behind the camera, the tension was unforgettable. In the years that followed, Eastwood went on to direct film after film, many with roles that seemed tailor-made for someone like Jones. Yet every time casting directors brought up his name, Clint would just give a slow shake of the head and say, "Let's look at other options." That quiet dismissal spoke louder than any argument ever could. When asked years later if he'd ever work with Tommy again, Eastwood's answer was smooth but final. He said, "Tommy's got his way of working. I've got mine. Sometimes different approaches should stay different." Simple words, but they carried weight like a hammer. It was his polite way of saying, never again. To Clint, Tommy Lee Jones wasn't just intense. He was too intense, too locked in, too forceful, too unwilling to let go of control. And that's why he stayed on Eastwood's blacklist for good. But if Jones's offense was bringing too much fire, the next actor made the opposite mistake. He brought too little. We're moving from the tiger to the thinker. The next name on Clint Eastwood's secret blacklist isn't fueled by chaos or aggression. It's about overthinking. In Clint's eyes, this new wave of actors just can't stop analyzing, dissecting, and studying until all the natural magic drains right out of the scene. Landing in the number 2 spot is one of the biggest stars of our time, Leonardo DiCaprio. When word broke that DiCaprio would lead Eastwood's 2011 biopic J. Edgar, the film world went wild. It was hyped as a meeting of legends, the greatest actor of the modern era teaming up with Hollywood's old-school master. Everyone expected cinematic lightning, a modern classic in the making. But while J. Edgar had flashes of brilliance, the collaboration behind the curtain told a different story, one that tested Clint's patience harder than almost any film before it. Unlike the clashes with Tommy Lee Jones, this wasn't about ego or attitude. It was about philosophy, a generational divide so wide that not even raw talent could bridge it. At the heart of the tension was their completely opposite approach to the craft. Eastwood runs his sets like clockwork, minimal takes, quiet direction, no fuss, no frills. His mantra, the first take's the truest take. To him, repeating lines kills authenticity. The more you rehearse, the less real it feels. DiCaprio, on the other hand, is the definition of a methodical perfectionist. He dives into every role like he's living it for real, breaking down every emotion, every motive, every flicker of thought. His process depends on time, lots of it, and he's known for pushing through countless takes until he uncovers what he calls the truth of the character. One script supervisor from J. Edgar described it perfectly. It was like watching two different languages trying to communicate. Clint's world runs on instinct and flow, while Leo's is built on detail and exploration. And somewhere in between those worlds, the tension quietly boiled, turning what could have been an easy shoot into one long test of patience. Leonardo DiCaprio came to set loaded for battle, with stacks of books, notes, and deep research on J. Edgar Hoover. He wanted to talk about motivation, psychology, and historical nuance behind every single movement. Every gesture, every pause had to mean something. To him, understanding the man inside the role was just as important as delivering the lines. Clint Eastwood, though, he didn't want a lecture. He wanted a performance. His approach was simple. Say the lines naturally, feel the moment, and keep the camera rolling. No overthinking, no drawn-out debates, just instinct and flow. Both men were masters, no question, but they operated on completely different frequencies. The result, pure friction. The clash hit hardest during the film's emotional high points. Crew members said DiCaprio would constantly ask for more takes to experiment with tone or emotion, something most directors would love. But to Clint, who prized efficiency above all else, it was like slow torture. One crew member recalled a particularly powerful breakdown scene. DiCaprio absolutely crushed it on the first take. It was raw, painful, and real, cinematic gold. But Leo wasn't satisfied. He wanted to go again, and again, and again. By the sixth take, Eastwood had quietly stepped away from the monitor. Where was he found? Standing at the craft services table, sipping coffee, just waiting for it all to end. You could practically feel his frustration vibrating through the room. What sealed DiCaprio's fate on Eastwood's blacklist wasn't the lost time. It was what that constant repetition represented. For Clint, filmmaking is about trust. Trusting instincts, trusting the first moment of truth that hits the camera lens. When an actor keeps asking for do-overs, he reads it as doubt, not just in themselves, but in him. One longtime assistant director summed it up perfectly. Clint believes the first take has a kind of magic that disappears the more you chase it. So when Leo kept pushing for safety takes, Clint didn't see dedication. He saw hesitation. To a director who's spent decades perfecting his craft, that kind of second-guessing feels like a slap in the face. In Eastwood's eyes, the moment you stop trusting your gut, you stop being real, and that's the one thing he can't stand on his set. When J. Edgar finally wrapped, those close to Clint Eastwood said he looked drained, not just tired, but bone-deep exhausted in a way they'd never seen before. The experience had worn him down completely, not because of chaos or conflict, but because of something far subtler, the endless analysis, the non-stop discussions, the overthinking that strangled spontaneity. Later, Clint summed up the entire divide between himself and today's new breed of method actors with one perfect line. He said, "Some people want to climb the mountain. Others want to analyze the mountain, measure the mountain, and write poems about the mountain. I just want to get to the top and enjoy the view." That single quote said everything. He respected Leo's dedication, but he didn't want to relive it ever again. Eastwood remained professional to the end. He praised DiCaprio's performance publicly, kept things polite, and never threw shade. But privately, he made a quiet vow. No more actors who overthink the magic out of a moment. Even in later years, when casting directors suggested DiCaprio for roles that would have fit him perfectly, Clint's answer was always calm but final. "Great actor, not for me." Just like that, the door closed, for good. And that simple, respectful brush-off became legendary among those who worked with him. It wasn't bitterness, it was a boundary. For Eastwood, filmmaking should feel alive, spontaneous, and real, not trapped in hours of dissecting emotions or rewriting meaning mid-scene. So while Leonardo DiCaprio only left Clint tired, the person sitting at number one on this secret blacklist did something far worse. They made him feel insulted, truly insulted about his art and everything he stands for. We've now reached the top of the list, the one name that still makes Eastwood's expression tighten with quiet disdain. A figure who, in his eyes, embodies everything that's gone wrong with modern Hollywood. Topping Clint Eastwood's secret blacklist, the one name that draws his sharpest disapproval, belongs to someone he never even worked with. No shared set, no co-starring roles, no direct collaboration. Yet somehow, this person managed to earn Clint's deepest frustration and philosophical opposition. That name, Barbra Streisand. It might sound shocking, but insiders say their long-standing tension captures the pure essence of Clint's values colliding head-on with another powerhouse's vision. While the other names on his list irritated him with behavior, Streisand represented something far bigger, an entire mindset that Clint couldn't stomach. In his eyes, she symbolizes everything that drains the soul out of movie making: over-control, perfectionism, and endless tinkering. Their behind-the-scenes rivalry traces back to the early 1980s, when both were carving their identities as serious actor-directors. Streisand had already built a reputation for being meticulous to the extreme, obsessing over every shadow, every note, every take, sometimes running through dozens of shots just to perfect a single moment. She demanded total control, down to the smallest detail, and nothing less than flawless execution satisfied her. Clint, on the other hand, was the total opposite. Hollywood called him one-take Clint for a reason. He believed in instinct, trust, and momentum. His sets ran like clockwork, quiet, efficient, and done before lunch, while other directors were still setting up the first camera angle. Where Streisand would study, measure, and reshoot, Eastwood would already be editing the next reel. One producer who'd worked with both of them once joked, Clint could finish an entire film in the time it took Barbra to shoot one scene. That line made the rounds across Hollywood, and Clint didn't exactly deny it. For a man who prides himself on decisiveness and confidence in the moment, her perfectionist approach wasn't just different, it was self-indulgent. The tension finally went public in 1992 during awards season, when Eastwood's gritty Western masterpiece Unforgiven went head-to-head with Streisand's sweeping emotional drama, The Prince of Tides. It wasn't just two films competing, it was two creative worlds colliding. For Clint, Barbra represented the slow, over-polished Hollywood machine he despised, while he stood for the old-school, instinct-driven style that valued guts over gloss. To this day, those who know him say her name still makes him tighten his jaw, proof that some artistic divides just can't be bridged. Barbra Streisand's frustration with Hollywood exploded during the early 90s, when The Prince of Tides earned multiple Oscar nominations, but not one for Best Director. That snub ignited a fierce debate about gender bias in the industry, and many rallied behind her. But behind closed doors, Clint Eastwood reportedly had a very different take, and he didn't sugarcoat it. According to insiders, Clint's private comment was sharp enough to slice through all the Hollywood politeness. He allegedly said, "Maybe if she spent more time making decisions and less time obsessing over details, she'd have finished more than 3 films in 15 years. That line spread fast in the industry. It was pure Clint, blunt, unfiltered, and aimed straight at the heart of her perfectionism. Streisand didn't take the jab quietly either. She supposedly fired back, questioning whether Clint's famous one-take style came at the cost of emotional depth. To her, speed and simplicity weren't virtues. They were shortcuts. For Eastwood, though, that hit deep. He'd built his entire legacy on the belief that authenticity dies when art is overthought, and her criticism felt like a direct attack on his core philosophy. The tension between them hit its highest point just a few years later, and fate handed Clint the ultimate chance to prove his point. The project? The Bridges of Madison County, 1995. For years, Streisand had been attached to the film, envisioning it as a sweeping, layered romantic drama packed with intricate backstory and emotional subplots. She wanted texture, complexity, and total control. But when she stepped away from the project, Eastwood swooped in. quiet, confident, and ready to do it his way. He completely stripped down the script, cutting out the excess detail and focusing only on what mattered. Two people, one brief connection, and a heartbreakingly simple love story that felt real. That movie became Clint's artistic mic drop, the moment he proved that simplicity could be more powerful than perfection. And though he never gloated publicly, those close to him say he knew that Bridges was his answer to Streisand's obsession with control. One film that showed emotion doesn't come from endless takes or fine-tuned lighting, but from truth caught in a single, honest moment. Clint Eastwood filmed the bridges of Madison County with his signature precision and calm, fast, quiet, and laser-focused. He built a set that felt more like a private world than a film shoot, giving his co-star Meryl Streep the freedom to sink completely into her role. The result? One of the most haunting, emotional performances of her entire career. Critics praised the film as intimate, powerful, and deeply human, and Hollywood insiders couldn't help but notice the poetic twist. Eastwood had taken the same project Barbra Streisand had once struggled to perfect for years and turned it into a masterpiece in a fraction of the time. That film wasn't just a win, it was a statement. Clint proved that simplicity isn't a shortcut, it's a superpower. To those close to him, his quiet satisfaction after Bridges spoke volumes. He didn't need to brag or take public shots. His success did the talking. It showed that efficiency and emotion could coexist, that speed didn't kill depth, it created it. For Clint, the secret wasn't in obsessing over the perfect frame, but in capturing the truth of a moment before it fades. Since that defining project, Eastwood and Streisand have kept their distance. Two legends standing firmly on opposite ends of the creative spectrum. Clint still makes subtle digs at her school of perfectionist filmmaking in interviews, once saying, "At a certain point, you're not finding truth anymore. You're manufacturing it." That single line sums up his entire philosophy. What makes Streisand's name sit at the very top of Clint's blacklist isn't personal hate, it's what she represents. To him, her brand of filmmaking rejects the honesty and instinct that have guided his whole career. As one longtime collaborator put it, Clint can work with someone he doesn't like as long as they share his work ethic. What he can't stand is anyone who turns the job into self-indulgent overthinking. Even Morgan Freeman, one of Clint's closest friends, has said the same thing. Freeman explained it perfectly. Clint sees excessive analysis and endless retakes as fear pretending to be perfectionism. That's the essence of their divide. For Eastwood, filmmaking isn't about fear, it's about faith. Trusting your instincts, your moment, and your craft. And in that battle of philosophies, Barbra Streisand remains the one person who truly tested everything he stands for. By putting Barbra Streisand at the very top of his blacklist, Clint Eastwood wasn't just calling out a rival, he was making a bold, definitive statement. In his world, the worst sin an artist can commit isn't bad acting or ego-driven fame. It's letting control and pride smother the raw honesty of the moment. To him, once you lose that truth, you've lost the soul of the story. So what does Clint's blacklist really say about the man behind it? Sure, it's easy to brush it off as Hollywood drama, a collection of famous egos clashing on multi-million-dollar sets. But if you stop there, you miss the real message. Eastwood's rejection of these big names isn't about grudges or gossip. It's about survival. It's artistic self-preservation. After more than 6 decades in the game, Clint has built his craft around 3 core pillars: instinct, speed, and authenticity. Every frame he shoots, every scene he directs is guided by those values. He knows what works for him, and he refuses to compromise that process for anyone, no matter how famous or powerful they are. That fierce independence has shaped a very specific kind of ecosystem around Eastwood's films. Actors who crave endless rehearsals, emotional breakdowns between takes, or constant adjustments rarely even bother trying to work with him anymore. They already know it wouldn't fit. It's not personal. It's just the wrong formula. But for those willing to surrender to Clint's stripped-down, no-nonsense method, the experience can be life-changing. Stars like Gene Hackman, Meryl Streep, and Hilary Swank have all said that working under his quiet direction unlocked something deeper in their performances. They discovered the power of simplicity, the magic that happens when the noise disappears and truth takes over. Eastwood's Blacklist isn't about exclusion. It's about protecting that magic. It's his way of keeping the art pure, honest, and unburdened by ego. And in a town full of overthinking and overproducing, that makes his philosophy stand out louder than ever. Hilary Swank, who won an Oscar under Clint Eastwood's direction in $1 Million Baby, once said that working with him changed the way she approached acting forever. She described his set as incredibly freeing, explaining, when you know you only have 1 or 2 takes, you come alive in a different way. You're present in a way that's hard to maintain when you're doing 20. That raw energy, that urgency, is exactly what Clint's style brings out in his actors. In today's world, where so many films are micromanaged by committees and polished into lifeless perfection by technology, Eastwood stands tall as a symbol of another era, a filmmaker who trusts instinct over endless revision. He reminds everyone that sometimes the first take is the real truth, the unfiltered magic that no amount of editing can recreate. Clint's legacy teaches a powerful lesson. Preparation shows respect, but obsession destroys art. And maybe the most important thing of all, real authority doesn't need to scream or control. It doesn't hide behind endless takes or fancy gear. True power is quiet confidence, the kind that knows what it wants and goes for it without hesitation. So, if you've enjoyed diving into these untold stories from Hollywood's golden years, where legends like Clint Eastwood built their empires through grit, focus, and fearless honesty, then don't let this moment fade. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this story with every movie lover you know. Let's keep the spirit of true filmmaking alive together.